Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to yet again another live session with us. Uh, this is very special session, and I'll be your host. My name is DTM Tao, and I'm the program lead here at CyberSafe Foundation. If your cyber brother or cyber sister is not here, now would be a good time to buzz them, and let's get started today's event. Our guest for today is already here, and I'll be introducing her in a bit. So now it's been nice time to buzz anyone who is not already here. All right, so now that being said, like I said earlier, today we're having a very special session. It's a fireside chat with a special guest who I'm going to be introducing right about now. Her name is Helen Oakley. Helen Oakley is a senior product security architect at SAP, where she contributes to SAP's cross-product architecture, working as part of SAP's cyber and defense team, defining application and operation security controls, standards, and frameworks. In her previous role, Oakley was a security architect for SAP's financial services industry applications, where she implemented security and data privacy controls across banking and insurance applications portfolio. In addition to her role at SAP, Oakley is a co-founder of leadingcyberladies.com, a global community of women in cybersecurity, and she's a teacher at hackstudents.com, where she educates kids in ethical hacking. Wow. She's an advisory board member for 2 cybersecurity startups and believes in giving back to the community by sharing her expertise. And this is one of those times where she is giving back to the community in this fireside chat here with all of us. So just give a warm welcome as Helen joins me on stage. Hi, Helen. How are you doing?
Hi, DTM. Thank you so much for such a nice introduction. I'm doing good. It's a sunny morning in Toronto.
Oh, I can imagine. All right, so the ladies are excited. You can see in the chat box, sharing love, and we're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. We understand that this is a part of the year where things get crazy.
Okay, I think it's important, and it's great that you have such community in your area as well. I'm really happy to see this.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll be having this session, like you already know, it's a fireside chat, and we'll just be gisting, like we like to say here in Nigeria. We'll just be gisting and going back and forth with the questions. The ladies will be asking you questions as well, so that will feature here. But before we start this session, I like to start my sessions with my guests just telling one interesting fact about themselves. Just anything, fun fact.
Fun fact. Okay. I do aerial silks, which is completely unrelated to security.
That sounds interesting. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So we're curious. We want to know what your journey into cybersecurity has been like. We want to know what major hurdles were in this journey. We are suckers for stories, so please share your story with us. How did you come to be this Helen Oakley that we know here today?
So I guess a little while ago, when I was in school, I didn't know that cybersecurity career existed. And in fact, I didn't even think that IT career is for me. And when I was choosing my role, it just I didn't know about it. So I went for another education. I went for administration and accounting, which I hated every day of it. I mean, it's a good knowledge. It's a good job, but I didn't like it. And then I decided to change something in my life, and I re-educated in IT, and I started as a security tester. Later, years forward, and I found that I really enjoy working in IT. I really enjoy working as a tester and doing automation and all kind of testing, software testing activities. But then I got introduced into a security topic, and that caught my interest instantly. And I was like, what is this? It's so interesting. I want to learn more. And this is how my journey started. So I started through curiosity. I kept asking questions. I kept learning about it, trying, doing pen testing and etc. analysis of the software for security vulnerabilities. And moving forward, I grew into a full-time job in security finally, and evolve myself as a security architect who I am today.
Wow, that's quite an interesting journey. You have someone who can relate to you in the chat box. She's like, oh, she studied the same thing, and to see to see you both found your way here. I'm really happy you had the courage to take that step and find yourself in cybersecurity. That's a beautiful journey. What would you say have been the hurdles in your journey, though? I need you to just share some more about that. What were the hurdles you experienced trying to transition and all of that?
Well, I don't like calling it hurdle per se. I like calling it challenge. And there's always going to be a challenge in your journey. And it's just up to you to take on that challenge and solve it for you, resolve it somehow. So for me, in the beginning, it was more of a technical gap and learning more about the pen testing, yeah, how vulnerabilities work. But it's not impossible. You try, you fail, you learn, right? And it's challenge, but it's interesting challenge. The other, not specifically related to cybersecurity, was probably more of communication challenge. Explaining to management what you need to do, why you need to do security. And it's very important. It's not something that, unless you're very good in your communication skills, it's not something that you can be excelled at the beginning of your career. So you learn how people behave, you learn how people think, how management thinks. And this is another challenge that everyone in cybersecurity, no matter what your role, should really strive for by working on their soft skills, communication skills, leadership skills to achieve what you need to do.
Right. I really love the points about trying, failing, and learning. And that should be our mantra. That should be our mantra. Thank you so much for that. So how has your experience and accomplishment so far shaped your view of life and success? I understand that people define success in different ways. So has this experience you've had, this journey so far, affected how you view success right now?
So for me, success means that I have impact. I did something better, so I see the result. For example, if we have implemented certain controls in the software, I see the result that it's benefiting the customer at the end if you're working for a software company, yeah? Or maybe you're working on educational side of cybersecurity and you see that people learn and you see that they're not doing same mistakes over and over again. And that impact gives you really great satisfaction and it defines your success, what you can achieve, what you want to achieve. So you have your goals and you keep going to them. And another aspect of success, and this is really, I don't know if it's called like my personal success, but it's definitely a satisfaction with leading Cyber Ladies group in Toronto, and we grew in the past years significantly. I find it's really great when somebody joins the group, learns about cybersecurity, and then they coming back to me and saying, hey, Helen, your community really helped me with getting the job in terms of that. I know how to speak, I know how to build my resume, I know what the employer wants, and I know how to present myself to the employer so that they see my skill set and not dismiss me because I wasn't able to communicate myself. And that really gives me a great achievement that there is somebody else who was successful because they attended our community groups.
All right, thank you so much for that. So Helen, I see you're a senior product security architect. If you were to hire someone, an entry-level cybersecurity professional, what are the things you will look out for?
Definitely eager to learn, yeah, and not being afraid to take on the challenge. And think like a hacker. So if we have an interview and the person shows that they have the thinking of a hacker, like logical thinking, how to find a flaw, how things may work differently based on what initial software, for example, wants, right? Or maybe they think with open mind towards the management role, or maybe not management role, but some assistant role and team member role that reflects some cybersecurity activities. That is very important because skill you can learn, but if you don't have the right mindset, if you don't think like a hacker, it will be difficult to succeed in this industry, even if you have some skills. So never stop learning.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so if there's any advice, so the fellows on this call will be participating in a hiring summit soon. So if there was a tip and advice you could give to them to better position themselves, because I noticed you buttressed the whole point of having soft skills and being able to communicate and position yourself properly. So if there's any advice you could give to them, what would that advice be and how to better present themselves?
So my advice would compute of two things. Yeah. First of all, even if you are an entry position, employer still wants to see that you've done something, and that may not be necessarily a job. That might be some volunteering project, yeah, or some research that you did and you saved on a GitHub and you can show, or you talk to library and you had maybe with local library some sort of a agreement that you will help by checking their website, right? And they give you maybe a letter of recommendation or something. This kind of achievement really shows that you want to work and you go beyond. So even with the entry position, even if you didn't have your cybersecurity job ever, I really recommend to look into non-paid projects, volunteering projects, research, and so on, and put it part of your portfolio until you build your experience. Yeah. The second part for representing yourself, try to show that you like to learn. Yeah. Again, I'm saying the same thing, but it's very important that you can adapt to challenges, you can adapt to changes, you can take challenges, and you want to learn. And that's the most important. When I look at people who I hire, that's one of the most important things. Of course, it goes also depending on what role, if I need a junior or intermediate experience, for example, but regardless of experience, that's the trait that I'm looking for. And last one, when you're looking for a job, especially at the entry level, look for security responsibilities between the lines of job description. Try to figure out if some job description actually has some security in it. Because though we do for sure have very specific roles for security, there are many industry still evolving. It's still it's kind of mixed up with other roles, yeah. And sometimes you may find yourself perhaps doing some security and gaining that experience, even if you have another title, yeah. And that will give you also some experience and push to move forward in your cyber career.
Those are amazing, amazing, amazing advices. Thank you so much. Thank you so. I really like that point of looking into other opportunities that are not phrased like cybersecurity roles, because often there's a bit of cybersecurity in some of them. So thank you so much for that. Okay, Helen. So I read somewhere that you are a product of the choices we make in life. And I strongly believe that we're a product of those choices. And I know that there are decisions you had to make, your choices you had to make earlier on in your career. And I'd like to know, how these choices have impacted you, if you think you may have made a mistake, and let's talk about what that mistake would have been and how do you, with the knowledge you currently have, better handle that experience?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I look at the past not at something that I would, do differently, because whatever we are today, it's a result of our actions and lessons. Even if we did a mistake, it means that we learned that lesson, right? And if we didn't make that mistake, we wouldn't learn the lesson, we wouldn't know about it, right? Maybe by chance, or maybe somebody. So of course, it's better to learn from other people and make it easier. And I think that's part of the reason why we have all the sessions, so that you learn also from others. You don't need to repeat mistakes, right? But I would say, wherever I am today, it's also a result of the whole pathway journey, right? And I really wish that I would know more about IT when I was in school. I guess my mistake, I don't know if it was fully my mistake, or just the whole community around that had some bias and so on. Like women do not work in IT. It's a guy's job and so on. But I really wish I would push harder and pursued my goal earlier, because I've lost some years by doing something I completely don't like. However, that knowledge also benefits me. I mean, administration and accounting, it's really good knowledge in life anyway.
Oh no, it's sometimes you find a way to feed into your life.
Yeah.
Knowledge is really wasted. Finds a way to fit in, and then you find out that there's some transferable skills, and it just okay, it helps. I love that point about not having mistakes and not seeing it like mistakes. But I'd like to know, is there anything you so let's say, for example, you made an error and that slightly impacted your career, and you learned something tangible from that error. Some people in the past have said, maybe made a communication error or something, and how that has helped them be better. I'd like to have you share one of those times, one of those scenarios with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess sometimes it's a set of little mistakes that can lead to some traumatic changes. It may not be like one single error. I cannot really find something significant like error that would define a change in my career.
Yeah.
But definitely small mistakes, maybe I find that my mistakes were mostly around communication with people. So throughout my career, I learned better communicating with people, which made me more successful in my career as cybersecurity professional. Because in the past, especially right now, companies are more interested in security and they understand the importance. Yeah. But maybe 7-10 years ago, it wasn't like that. And you constantly had to prove that you are needed and that your job is not some made up science. And this really can bring some challenges for organization if they get breached, yeah, and customers would complain and so on. And I know that in the past, I could perhaps improve how I would deliver the message to management, right? And how I focus to management. And I'm sorry, I really having trouble finding a specific example right now. I don't remember, but
that's fine. I personally think that, like you said, it's not just one thing that defines, your although for some people that is the case, just with little products of corrections here and there, and how we just grow to be better. The communication example is actually spot on, because I can imagine Helen trying to create a slide deck just to explain a vulnerability to management, and having to buttress the point, oh, we need to fix this, and creating the urgency. And I think you have to learn communication as it is, and build a lot of other interpersonal skills. So yeah, those are things that actually are spot on.
But I would say, maybe I would add, regardless of what that mistake is, and sometimes it's really just, like you forgot to lock your computer. I mean, it's very silly, yeah, but an example, and something happened. It's really that, don't beat yourself up for that mistake. That's very important, right? And even if you have to talk to your management about something that went wrong, right? Admit that mistake and point out to a lesson learned. And that was my continuous approach to whatever errors I did, bigger, smaller, yeah, throughout my career. I explained that I understood the error and this is how I'm gonna do differently in future. And typically, unless it's you manage a very bad human being, or maybe you're doing same mistake over and over again, right? Just not locking your computer. But I mean, typically people are understandable, yeah, and say that we all humans, we all do mistakes. So just make sure you learn from it and move on. Yeah.
All
And
right,
this is, yeah.
I like that you're preaching the message of kindness to yourself, because it's a difficult journey. It doesn't happen in one day. It's not a destination. And the fact that, with cybersecurity, you're constantly learning, patience with yourself and loving yourself sufficiently to know this is an error. This is just a phase where I make this error, and this is how I can better improve myself. It's really important. So you hear her very clearly. Love yourself enough to accept that you make mistakes, and you can pick yourself back up.
It doesn't define you. It doesn't define you.
It doesn't define you in any way. So someone would like to know, coming from accounting, she comes from a background in accounting, and what were the things that, because you mentioned you had a bit of administration and finance experience as well. What were the things that were similar between both fields? And how has that helped you settle into cybersecurity? So we talk a lot about transferable skills and transferable knowledge. So she's trying to ask, possibly the things you can see that you can't see that you can transfer over to this other side. Would you like to mention?
Whatever your previous background was, cybersecurity is a completely opposite spin, right? And even if you take accounting and finances, for example, in your role as accountant or finance, whatever finance person, whatever finance you do, your job is typically, I need to enter this, I need to do this calculation, and I need to perform certain activities to make sure that organization is compliant for finances purposes, everything is correct, yeah? From security perspective, you twist it. What can go wrong? What can I do wrong so that it will misuse the process or exploit some flaw, yeah? And if we're working on a software with accounting experience or finance experience, it would be interesting to work for software that are being developed for banks, for accountants, and so on, because you know how they work. And now you can apply your hacker thinking skills to see how it can be misused. Trust me, when I do my taxes, I look at the software and I'm like, I wonder. Yeah, I don't do it. Yeah, because it needs to be authorized. But anyway, the point is to look for the flow and use your knowledge that you had, whatever your background is, and see how this can be applied differently. But of course, if you're looking at finances, it's not only the pen testing that you could do, right? You can also look at the fraud detection, for example, right? How are certain things are done, and go to that area.
All right. So I think someone who's rightly said in the chat box, the major things to have an attacker's mindset. So you think like an attacker and all of that.
Hacker, attacker, yes.
No. They're choosing the word attacker. I think they're very big on the whole blue team, red team bit. I think that's what they're really big on. But yeah, I get your point. Thank you so much, Helen, for that. So you are a cyber boss. There's no disputing with all of the years you've put in and all of the knowledge you've acquired. You're a cyber boss. And we want to know, as a cyber boss, what habits did you develop over the years, or maybe quite recently, because that happens too, that has helped build you to be this person, to be the cyber boss that you are right now?
What helped me to be who I am today.
Going to take that again. Okay, so other habits, you've developed over time that's helped build the person that you are now. So for example, are you a 4 a.m. in the morning person? Do you believe, we should have a 4 a.m. start? Do you believe in 4-day weeks? All of those things. What habits, or do you exercise before? Any habits you've built that you think has been helpful in your growth journey? You could just share with us.
Yeah, I think it's important to strive for a balance in your life. Yeah. And of course, especially in the beginning of your career, you might find yourself overloading yourself with work, maybe putting extra hours or education. And that's totally understandable, but it cannot go forever like that. Yeah. And you really need to also make sure that you are living your life in a healthy way. For me, it means I spend time with family. I do exercise, not 4 o'clock in the morning, but I do spend time. And actually, this schedule that I have really helps me to time box and focus on my work during the hours, because I have other plans. I have things to do with kids in the evening. I have my sport activities. I have dinner with family and so on. And that when you have less time to spend on certain things, you tend to focus on most important things. So it will be easier, even often it will be easier when you do have only limited time, and you will focus on, you will prioritize your list, and you will go, I need to do ABC, and I will not touch 7 or 10 point in my list because it's on the lower list and I need to focus on more important. In terms of continuously keeping yourself relevant is also important. And of course, all this cybersecurity learning bleeds into your personal life. And for me, it looks like reading articles, reading blogs, reading news in my free time. Like in the morning, I drink coffee and I read something. Yeah, maybe time to time I do go through some courses, educational courses, like certificate or something, and I do tend to spend time preparing myself for the exam. And of course, it can take a lot of time, but then it's only a period of time that you would put your personal life on the side and let your kids eat pizza for a bit and do your exam, but then you move back to life balance, and that's important. So I guess my key message is make sure you find your balance, whatever that is for you, and you feel happy.
Okay, and this is where I add, and if your kids have to eat pizza for a little while, that doesn't make you a bad mom. Just take home for anybody.
Yes, exactly.
That doesn't make you a bad mom. So thank you so much for that. I'm very big on practical steps people can take. I understand that with cybersecurity, there's a lot of continuous education, a lot of it, and in an attempt to acquire this knowledge, sometimes I wouldn't call it a waste, because no knowledge really is a waste, but we lean our energies towards things that are not necessarily useful at that time, or way too advanced that we can't even understand, so we can't even make use of. So are there any tips you can offer, to finding, what books you should be reading for that time, your life, what courses you should be taking, and what is necessary and what isn't? Is there any tip you can offer, regarding that?
It really depends. Yeah, my favorite question. Answer. It depends what path you're gonna take in your cybersecurity career, because as we know, there are many domains in cyber, and you can be pen tester, you can be incident response, threat detection team, compliance, privacy, data privacy, and so on. So whatever you are, whatever you choose, and maybe in the beginning you need to look around a little bit to understand what you like. Yeah, and the community sessions, conferences typically help listening to different topics, talking to different people, and really understanding for yourself where you want to focus on. Because like you said, focus is important. You cannot know everything. If somebody says on interview or on LinkedIn, I'm cybersecurity expert. I'm like, this is, this is, you cannot be cybersecurity expert. Like you cannot be expert in everything, right? So be more specific in your focus. And if you want to have more practical steps, I can definitely recommend some actions if you want to go into application security, because that's where I am. You want to learn hacking. There are great tools that are free that you can use, like OWASP, Do Shop. Yeah, it's a platform where you can test pen testing in a safe zone. There are other tools too. You can definitely research. For example, Hack the Box gives you not only application security like pen testing, but also pen testing of security network if you want to go into security network, for example. And you know, books. I like casual reading that. Not just, you know, books that prepare you for exam. That's very different. Yeah, but casual reading on a topic that you like. Like I recently got a book. Oops, here you go. I recently got a book about designing secure software. Yeah, guide for developers. I mean, I know the topic, but it's interesting to read about other people's opinion, their research, how they did, you know, their thoughts, because it's also helping you develop your understanding, your ideas, how to do things better. There's no specific book that you're gonna have and it's gonna give you a boost. It really depends, but look for little bits and pieces, yeah, that will kind of help you to move on in your journey.
All right, thank you so much for that, Helen. Okay, so I see you are CISSP certified. A couple of people on this call in the long run would like to take that certification, but this is not just specific with CISSP. My next question is not just specific to CISSP, but generally with taking certification exams, a lot of people have issues, and I know that you've taken a couple. So would you like to share a tip, something that helped you, you know, better prepare, you know, build your confidence while at it? We understand that certifications are ultimately, you don't just say that you know this stuff. You know, there's some tips and tricks here and there. So just share something with us. Maybe
Yes, definitely I can share. So first of all, CISSP, in order to get, you need years of experience, right? So it assumes you already have some background in security and you don't need to learn everything from the start. And really like practical experience, like working in a management and so on. Why I'm saying this? Because it's very broad, yeah. And you would be expert maybe in one domain, but not all other, whatever, 7 or 10 domains that they have. And for me, it was a journey going through CISSP. And I would say if you are in the beginning of career, look for a certificate that precedes CISSP. Yeah, the entry certificate, because it will give you already certification, yeah, credibility. If employer, for example, is looking for something, maybe even for compliance purposes, they need to have an employee with certificate, yeah. And that will give you something, and years later you can go for CISSP. However, if you're at the point of your life that you do go for CISSP, I would definitely recommend focus on practical questions. Do not underestimate. When I was going through that, actually, I will share with you, I failed first exam because for that particular reason, I underestimated the practical questions. I knew all the topics, yeah. And I went through all materials, like, yeah, I understand. I did a little questions, but I didn't do a lot of them. And at the exam, the questions were very similar answers, yeah. So you have 4 multiple choice in most cases, and 2 you're gonna move, like you're gonna dismiss right away. And typically the other 2 will be so close together. They really want you to be precise in understanding how they want you to think about it, yeah. And there are people who are really good answering questions. They're really like, they don't need to know the topic, they're just like good answering questions, yeah. It wasn't my case. I knew the topic, but the questions were tricky for me. So what I did, For the next time, I went through lots of questions. So I practice all the time on all domains. I also listen to different perspectives, because what they say in security, like CISSP, oh, think like a manager. No, think like a lawyer. And that particular tip that somebody gave me was so helpful, because once you start thinking like a lawyer, how this particular point and question affects the organization, then you will be able to select the right answer. Yeah, and then you will be understand like, okay, so this is the risk that our organization is facing, and what would that mean, right? And then you would select. And I listened to different podcasts that provided some examples around CISSP live cases and so on. So it's a combination of different perspectives and continuous practice that will help you pass your exam.
These are two really wonderful points, and I like that you went past the CISSP exam to others. Thank you so much for that. So I think this may be the last question from my end, because we're opening up to other people to ask questions. But I'd really like you to tell us about your application testing days. Those were the early days, and I think there are a lot of people on this call that would benefit from your experience there, because a lot of them could start off there as well. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yes. So when I started my cybersecurity journey, I was working in development team, and my job was, I was QA lead, so quality assurance lead, and I was also on a release management. So I was doing deployments for testing, for release packages of the software. And at that point, I decided that penetration test is what is needed, because we never did it. And we did, I did assessment with a couple other colleagues on security, like high level assessment. And we had a lot of uncertainties, and the pen testing was needed. So what I did actually, I did ask management for a few people who would be working with me on the pen testing, and thankfully they agreed at that point. My journey was, I started to learn by reading, watching videos. There wasn't any official education that I had for pen testing, but it was try and error. So I had Zap, OWASP Zap, then I had Burp Suite as the two tools that I worked with. And we did manual pen testing at first. So we learned how it works. So we learned different techniques and different areas in the software that we used for pen testing. And we found a lot of flaws at that point. And then so that's how we practiced and understood how the penetration works. And then we started to automate that with the scan, and we connected to our automation that went through UI and really generated all the request and response for the loading. And then once that done, you doing only validation of certain findings that scan gives you. So you don't go manually through everything, because that's typically a lot of work, right? So you typically pick an area based on the scan, and you focus on that area. You think, you see, is it like false positive? Do you want to exploit furthermore? Sometimes you want to focus on some specific areas like authorization access, right? Would certain requests bypass authorization, for example, authentication and authorization, and give you an access to like administrative functions or something like that. Yeah, so that were my early days, which led to more automation around that team. We really improved security at that point. It was really helpful that we had that activity done. And after that, I moved on to more architecture topics. Threat modeling is one of my favorite even today. Though I don't do threat modeling today on a daily basis, but I did a lot of threat modeling in the past, and I really enjoy it.
All right, thank you so much, Helen, for sharing that bit with us. So this will be the last question. So for the session altogether, I understand that your good days, your bad days, the difficult days, and you have to keep yourself going. You have to keep pushing. Is there any philosophy or quote that keeps those bad days, that makes those bad days bearable, or gives hope in those bad days? Do you have any quote, something that you live by?
So I do have a quote that I live by, but I don't know if it's really helping me during my bad days.
But share nonetheless.
So the quote is, cybersecurity is a journey. Learn it, live it, share it. It's on my LinkedIn. And
okay, I like it. I think I should say it again. Please say it again.
Yeah, cybersecurity is a journey. Learn it, live it, share it.
Learn it, live it, share it. I think it just covers all fronts. That's a really nice quote. Okay, so if you don't remember anything from this session with Helen,
but I wanted to add for bad days, and there will be bad days when you are stressed at work, or misunderstanding with management, or whatever that makes you bad day. I think it's important to keep in mind this day will pass. It doesn't define your career. It's not what it is on always, right? Unless it's really toxic environment, and maybe then if it keeps happening, maybe then you should think if this is environment for you, if it always keeps you stressed, right, and so on. But typically, I keep in mind today is not a very good day. Maybe something is happening that affects me negatively, and I need to just pass this day. Maybe it's even helpful if I leave the work for an hour, go for a walk, right, in my break or something like that, and come back with the fresh mind, and don't respond emails angry. Wait 24 hours.
All right, thank you so much. Those are two really, really amazing, take backs. So remember, cybersecurity is a journey. You have to learn it, and then you live it, and most importantly, share it. Helen, we would like to connect with you. We would like to get to have a chat and just sneak peek into your mind once in a while on any social media platform you're most comfortable with. So do you mind sharing your handles so we can follow and connect with you? All right.
Yes, of course. So I see LinkedIn already been shared.
Yes.
Also, I can share. You can also find me on. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah. So.
Okay.
I guess LinkedIn has the most content around security. Twitter and Instagram just kind of like I'm there also. You'll find you'll find sometimes some posts there as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Helen. We really appreciate you taking our time to share with us a part of your journey. And again, to give back, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. You can see all of the love going on in the chat box. It is all that we can give. Thank you so much, Helen. We hope to have you sometime again. And we are looking forward to interacting with your content online as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Like I said, I'm really happy to see your community in your area, and I'm really happy to see so many wonderful ladies in Nigeria who are so eager to learn cybersecurity. That's really amazing, and I hope you keep this nice, great network and support each other, because that's very important that we do. And yes, of course, connect with me. I also have network. You will see other people who are in my network that may also help you at some point. So just, let's keep in touch. And thank you again for inviting me.
All right, Helen. Goodbye for now.
Okay.
All right. So Bye. It's been a lovely session. This fireside chats. Would I be biased if I say it's one of my favorites? But we got to meet the amazing Helen Oakley, and feel free to connect with her and to watch the session again. But she will come your way again. My name is Ditiam Tao. Stay cyber safe.